I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on GBM, we're featuring a terrific author. Her name is Patra Ann Smith, and her powerful booklet is called Dear Addiction, Cease and Desist. This is a direct, no-nonsense guide to ending the on-again, off-again cycle and finally calling out addiction for what it really is, a purpose-stealing enemy, not any form of comfort. If you're pursuing sobriety, healing, and a stronger mindset, this conversation, this book, is for you. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put her on TV today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Patra, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm elated to be here.
I'm excited to have you on the show. You've done a great job on this booklet. It is short, it cuts to the chase, it gets to the point, and it's going to help a lot of people. Why did you decide to write it?
I was fed up with the cycle of addiction. I was fed up with what it did to my body.
Mhm.
Um, I am normally a very healthy person and I appreciate a non-toxic mind and body, and drinking every day uncontrollably was giving me everything but a non-toxic body.
Mhm.
Fact, it was polluting me to the point of insanity. And I was blaming everything but the actual problem, which was my addiction, because I had uh, developed a relationship or a fake friendship, I would say, with addiction and with alcohol, because it had seemed to relieve me from my problems. Um, and that's what it disguised itself at as a friend to me, because it was the solution to my fear or the solution to my pain that I was going through. Is it was an escape from my pain. It was liquid courage when I feel like I needed courage, and it just seemed like a solution, but that it wasn't. And once I discovered what it was to me, which wasn't a solution, but a purpose-stealing enemy and something that was polluting me, pulling me away from my natural loving self and pulling me away from everyone I loved, I immediately felt the need to save myself and, message to anyone else who's struggling with the same thing.
Absolutely. I stopped drinking myself about 6 years ago. I don't think I was addicted, but I was drinking a lot because everywhere you go, somebody's putting a drink in front of you. You go to lunch, would you like a drink? When you go to dinner, would you like a drink? You go to a party and you meet friends, would you like a drink? You can be drinking all day. It's become part of the good life. And like you said, you don't feel healthy, you don't feel well, and any emotional problems they might be dealing with aren't going to be helped by drinking. They're just going to be exasperated. Um, Talk to us a little bit about quitting. How do we quit?
Well, I first there's the admitting process. You have to identify yourself as someone that's either drinking too much, like you said, or someone who is an addict. And that is usually a self-prescribed prescription. It's no one that can tell you that. It's a disease, right? But this is the only disease that um you're the one that tells yourself that, hey, I'm an addict. No doctor can actually tell you that. It's something that you admit yourself. So that's the first step. It's just realizing, hey, I'm drinking too much, or I cannot stop drinking. I must be an addict. And that it's a very hard first step, because it's always very hard to look yourself in the mirror and, say the honest, hard truth. So, that's the first step. The second step is telling someone else, getting someone else involved, or, a group of people, in my case, which I seeked AA help. I've seeked Celebrate Recovery help. Whichever feels more comfortable to you, but you need to get someone or someone's in with your process of healing that you can trust, because it's not something you can do alone. And then you have to replace drinking with um other healthy things. Because you don't want to create a void in a space where you used to drink every day at 5 p.m. or every day at 9 a.m. and then think that you're just going to have a void there, but don't fall victim to going back to your old habits. So, you have to create some type of a healthy routine with I would include you, daily devotional readings in the morning. Um, Daily gratitude list in the morning and the evening. Uh, a meeting every day with AA. You can do it on Zoom now, which makes it very convenient for you. It takes a lot of the fear factor away. It did for me. I did a lot of my meetings on Zoom. Um, and it's those things, a lot of prayer. Let me say that as a lot of admitting that this is something greater than myself. Therefore, I need a power that's greater than myself to step in here and heal me. I was not able to do it alone, so I have to call on something greater than myself, which in my case was God, Jesus Christ. And yeah, those are the things that helped me.
Yeah, absolutely. Telling others that you're trying to stop drinking or are going to stop drinking is great because others will hold you accountable. I think that's great. Being part of a group that reinforces sobriety, I think that's terrific. You did that as well. And replacing, like you said, the habit of drinking with a more healthy choice. I think that's also powerful. Talk to us about the on again, off again cycle that a lot of people who are struggling with addictions encounter and deal with.
Well, we always say, myself and people that I've met in recovery programs, that addiction, a part of addiction is relapse. So you rarely get it right the first time, you rarely get it right the second time. You just have to give yourself a whole lot of grace during the process because there is a good chance that you will relapse, which creates the on again, off again process. But I'd like to say that every time I relapse, I found something in that relapse that made me more equipped to be in a longer cycle of sobriety. It made me smarter and more equipped to fight against this addiction of mine. Again, addiction is a disease. It's something that you never really get rid of. It's just you get better at fighting against it and you get better at staying sober. You get better at identifying what it is, in your life and stop calling it a friend and stop seeing it as something that is help or aid to you. And once you identify it as an enemy, then you can treat it as an enemy and you begin to fight. And again, in every relapse, you find tools to fight better. And every relapse, you become more aware of what it is. And that gives you the tools to become stronger and have longer periods of sobriety. And hopefully, the goal is a forever period of sobriety. So, yeah.
Absolutely, that is a great goal. I also think focusing on the negatives of alcohol is a good thing. The terrible headaches you might get, the upset stomach, the hangover. Don't have to deal with that anymore. You can be out all night with friends and feel fine the next day, get up and go to work, go for a run, whatever it might be. So it is a much healthier lifestyle not to drink. And we're finding out more and more that it causes cancer. It is a contributor to heart disease. So there's lots of reasons to stop alcohol and other substances as well. And this book kind of covers all of it because I think addiction is addiction. It doesn't matter what your choice of medicine is, whether it's drug or alcohol, really, right?
Right. I've had, if I'm being honest, I've had an experience with both.
Hmm.
Addiction to alcohol first. That was my gateway.
Yeah.
As one of my relapse process, it led to me finding a solution, an alternative. And
Exactly.
at first it looks like an alternative, and then it's like you realize, no, this is just something else for me to be addicted to.
Right.
Um, yes, it happens. And like you said, you discover more and more that alcohol um leads to a lot of things that we do not find good to have around, such as depression. a lot of us deal with depression on a
Mm.
day-to-day basis, and we rarely relate our depression back to that relief that we have through the week, which is that alcohol. You know, Everything that goes up must come down. So when we take ourselves on those highs, those high highs, whether it's through alcohol or some other form of addiction or drug, we have to come crashing down.
Mm.
Good to stay at that happy medium mentally. That's where you don't have a spike that leads you, below that happy medium into a crash, which is a depression and a depressed state. And for some people, a depressed state is unaffordable because it could lead you to, harming yourself
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a dangerous path. And like you said, you're not going to be up here all the time. You're going to be down here. And when you're down here, you're going to want to drink more or do drugs or whatever you need to do to get back up there again. So it's a vicious cycle and one that needs to be broken. Talk to us a little bit about your book, how it's structured, and what people will find between the covers.
Well, it's structured first, in my story first. It just
Mhm.
tells what led me to finding alcohol as this seeming solution at first. So it talks about my journey from being an 18-year-old girl growing up in Miami and having a broken relationship with my mother, which led me to the emotional pain that I wanted to escape from. And then the fact of, being an 18-year-old in Miami,
Mm.
how, like you said, everywhere I went was alcohol. And, the people that I were hanging out with at the time, that was their choice, during hangout times or past times. We did not like things like yoga or a Bible study at that time. There wasn't much of an alternative for an 18-year-old. You develop those alternatives later on, maybe in your 30-year period. But at the time of 18, 19, 20s, it's all about drinking wherever you went. And then when you combine a pain, situation, whether it be internal pain that you've dealt with, childhood trauma, which is one of my issues that I've mentioned, that I was molested early on. That was part of trauma that I was trying to get away from. And at that time, I had a broken relationship with my mother. I'm a very sensitive person. So
Mm.
that hurt me to my core. And those are things that I wanted to escape from. So I talk about my story about what led me to find alcohol as this solution, and which many will relate to because it's something that a lot of people find themselves in a pathway, maybe from running from, current relationships that aren't going well, or current situations that aren't going well, or past childhood trauma, and it causes you to run into the arms of some solution at the time, which, can be drugs or alcohol. So it talks about my story that leads there. It talks about when I finally, well, I first saw my addiction to alcohol as a friend that
Mm.
I NT, to give it a name, and
Mm.
how NT had seemed like a solution at the time. She seemed like this liquid courage that gave me this boost of confidence when I was in a room with a lot of people. She was something that when I was home alone and I was dealing with my emotions, I could pour up a glass of Merlot and, have a good conversation with my good Judy and,
Mm.
let all of my emotions out. And, she was just there as a solution, and I saw her as a friend. And then later on, the dark truth came out.
Yeah.
Inti had a agenda that I was unaware of. And at first, she had disguised that agenda very well, which is what helped me develop, a trust in her. And, later on, when I became completely engulfed in alcohol and had, completely toxified myself and I was helpless, she struck as an enemy, when I was down, and she saw, like, hey, I have complete control now. I better strike while the iron's hot and wipe her out. And that's when I discovered it, that, hey, this isn't a friend at all.
Yeah.
Has an agenda not only to depress me or the little things that I had discovered along the way, but she has an even bigger agenda to claim my life and my purpose that came along with my life. So once I discovered that, um, at first I identified it, and second, I knew I needed to fight against it. But like I said, she got me while I was at my weakest point, and I had to then, which I talk in my book, because I was now at my weakest point, I found it hard to pray. I found
Mhm.
my hard to stop. And I needed the help of something outside of myself because I didn't have the strength. And I talk in my book about the strengths that I found outside my help, outside of myself, which was first calling on God,
Mm.
calling and saying, hey, I got myself into a deep pickle here and I really need you. I need you to be what everyone says you are. I need you to be what I've seen you are, have been in my past. I need you to be a problem solver. I need you to be my strength and weakness. I need you to be that gap filler because I can't quite get there by myself. So I need you to be, that solution, that savior. And like I said in my book, I realized that Inti felt like I had a price to pay her for
Mm.
all the time that she had given me something. So it seemed like I owed her something, but mentioned in my book that I remembered that Jesus had paid the ultimate price already, and anything owed from me was paid from him. And, that was something I remembered. And I just, again, called on Jesus and called on who he said he was. And then secondly, I called on people. I called on my family members that I had developed a strained relationship with because this drug, this addiction, alcohol had convinced me that these people were my enemy and they didn't love me. But at this time, I called on them and they came to my rescue. And they showed very much so that they did love me, in fact, and that was a lie. So, yes, first I called on God, then I called on people, and then I created a routine for myself to fill that void because I knew if the void wasn't filled, I would go right back into my old habits. It's a proven fact. You have to fill the void of what you did at 5 p.m. or whenever you did your drug of choice. You have to now make sure that you're on a meeting at those times or you're reading a devotional or you're writing out your gratitude list or what have you, or if you decided yoga was your solution, whatever
Yeah.
it is, you have to fill that void. And also I admitted to myself that I was an addict. I had a problem, which was hard to do. And I never wanted to call myself an addict because I was accustomed to speaking positively. So saying the words that I'm an addict wasn't a very positive word, but it was that truth that led me to a solution. So I had to admit that I was an addict. I realized also that I had a lot of defeated thoughts. I had a lot of negative perceptions about myself or negative thoughts that I struggled with, and I needed to create positive affirmation to fight against those thoughts. So, for every negative thought that I realized I was struggling with, I created a specific affirmation to defend myself against those thoughts. And I would say it out loud. I would speak to myself out loud. Till this day, I would get in the mirror or wherever I'm at, and I will affirm something positive to fight against whatever mental struggles that I'm going through. Um, so yeah, those are the things that, I can think of that I did. And I realized that it would be a continuous process.
Yeah.
There is going to come a time that you're going to feel like, hey, I'm not drinking. Hey, I'm doing great. Or hey, I'm not doing that drug. I'm doing great. That don't mean that you're completely out of the woodworks. You have to realize that this is a lifelong disease, just like anyone else with any disease, such as cancer or any disease. Even when they are in remission, even when they are cancer free, they have to remember that they were once susceptible to it, somehow, and they have to continue to eat healthy, and do things where they are aware that they were once a victim to cancer, to make sure that they do not become a victim again. You have to treat this disease the same way, even in times when you feel like, hey, I'm doing great, I'm on the top of the mountain. You have to realize like, hey, no, I still have this disease, and it's, like I've learned in AA, it says that your addiction is in the parking lot waiting for you to mess up again. It's in the parking lot doing push-ups.
That's a great analogy. Very, very strong message this book has. Always important to remind yourself when you think about having a drink, one is too many and 1,000's not enough. So don't even get started. The name of the book is Dear Addiction, Cease and Desist. It is a bold, empowering message to stop negotiating with what's stealing your purpose and start shutting the door for good. Patra, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me. It's been great, and I appreciate the time.
I appreciate your time, your insight, and the wonderful advice within this book. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford for the Global Book Network. So long for now.